Sometimes it's a lot of little details that make all of the difference in a luxury car that fully supports its price tag via its appearance. And this machine, which I'll show you in a moment, is full of those little details. From a glance and top up or down, it looks upscale and sophisticated, designed to stir a sense of pride in the driver. But it's maybe more impressive when you get up close and see things like the open pore wood on the dash, or the ambient lighting that runs through the cabin, or detail and intricacy and sculpted metal slathered almost over everything you could lay your eyes or fingers on. From a quick glance or a close inspection, here's a luxury cruiser that's built in no uncertain terms to satisfy your desire for a world-class, top-optional luxury ride. This is the Mercedes E400 Cabriolet, and to put it simply, it's one of the very best luxury drop tops on the scene right now. And so here's a new model that gives shoppers more options on a two-door version of this elemental model line, which has typically been offered as a sedan or wagon. With this new E-Class Cabriolet, you basically get all of the room and content of a world-class luxury sedan with the sleek styling of a drop top. There's an E-Class Coupe available too, but we'll cover that another time. For now, let's roll the review. You start by accessing top-off motoring functions from this little console. Hold this switch a few seconds and the roof folds away and gets gobbled up by the trunk. A few seconds more brings it back into position after a few moments of roof panel gymnastics and tensioning wire jiu-jitsu. Another switch erects the rear wind diffuser, which cuts back on turbulence and noise in the cabin, just like this clever flap that springs up from the front of the windshield. Press this button to put all of the windows down simultaneously, or to roll them all up for top-down, windows-up cruising in full Remax agent mode. And if you're chilly, these air scarf vents breathe warm air around your neck, and if you're too hot, the seats are air-conditioned, which helps if you're a bit of a sweat factory on hot days like me. And maybe more importantly, the rear seats in this convertible are usable by adults. I wouldn't want to sit back here all day, but the seats are comfortable, relatively easy to access, especially with the top down, and there's adequate room to keep you from munching on your knees. This car is good at many things, but it's the best at one specific thing, and that is turning in very comfortable, effortless, and relaxing long-haul motoring. It's comfort, refinement, and quiet first. A few notes on how that pans out. Top-down noise levels are obviously louder, but kept decently in check. You won't need to scream to communicate with nearby passengers, even at highway speeds. Second, the engine, a 3-liter twin-turbo V6, good for 330 horsepower and gushing with torque. Mostly, you don't even realize the engine is there since you almost never hear or feel it. Third, with some of the most advanced autonomous systems on the road, E400 Cabriolet can automatically maintain a safe following distance and self-steer to stay in its lane perfectly, or go around corners, or even do hands-free lane changes. Just tap the signal and the car checks blind spots and moves over with no need to touch the steering. I like steering, so I try this stuff once to show you, then do it myself. Still, this all gives drivers one less thing to do other than sitting back and soaking up the sun and scenery. There's all-wheel drive as standard if you'll be out and about in the winter, and with the roof up, it's so quiet and well insulated you'd hardly know you weren't in a big fixed-roof coupe. So, here's a swanky luxury two-door you can use all year round, and one that's ready for roof-optional family road trips when it's nice. Two other things help make this a great machine for unwinding on the open road, and the first is this footwell area down by my feet. It's surprisingly wide and roomy, which means it's easy to board and exit, and easy to sit with your feet far apart if that's more comfortable for you, which it probably is, and maybe even more so if you're a little mobility challenged or have recently received a new knee or hip. But the best thing about this E400 on the comfort front, and probably its greatest asset, is the ride quality. Where I live in Sudbury, Ontario, our poorly maintained roads are the definition of worst-case scenario for potholes and dips and craters. And to put it simply, in this line of work, well, I just don't come across a lot of vehicles that do this good of a job at remaining this comfortable on roads that are this bad. The ride stays quiet, composed, beautifully isolated, and feels dense and durable almost no matter what you're driving over. The adaptive suspension and some clever tuning around how it works to adjust to the road surface beneath are largely to thank. Suffice it to say that a similar level of detail and effort has been applied to the way this car rides as to the way it looks. If your main priority is absolute comfort, you're very well covered here. If it's performance, not so much. The engine is adequately powerful, but it's no rocket, and you don't hear anything much unless you open it up, and then what you do hear is so muted and unexciting that it adds little to the experience. Steering is comfort first too, on the light and lazy side, minimal feedback, and not particularly sporty, though very easy to use, more so when parking, and it requires little effort from your hands and arms. And finally, when some corners come your way, the E400 doesn't feel bothered, but it doesn't feel particularly excited either. Comfort first and all of that. There is a drive mode selector that lets you alter various system calibrations for added sportiness, but this car is so good at the comfort thing that I'd hardly bother. Other notes: don't miss the high-tech cluster of screens and consoles, which give you easy access to hundreds of functions via vivid and smooth on-screen animations, directed by just a few millimeters of fingertip movement. Fuel mileage was very decent on my watch, and a good-sized fuel tank ensures a full day of driving can pass before refueling. Brakes are powerful, the feel of the pedal is good and fairly precise too. Trunk space is a little tight with the roof down, but still sufficient for a day's worth of shopping or a load of groceries. Put the top up and the trunk opens up accordingly. Oh, and the maneuverability, which is excellent. The turning circle is surprisingly small, and the around view camera system has the best graphics I've ever seen. Gripes include one little one and one big one. The little one, you need a little bit of time to learn this slick central command system before operating it with absolute ease. The big one, when you move over without signaling to make room for, say, a cyclist or parked car, the safety systems think you're unintentionally leaving your lane and can respond by jamming the brakes on hard and trying to steer you back towards it, though lightly, and this is infuriating, so I turned it off. End of the day, I'll leave you with this. If you're after a long-distance luxury touring car that's laser-focused on delivering tranquil drives for hours and hours on end, no matter the time of year, and maybe especially in the summer with the top down, this might very well be the best choice on the market right now, with pricing coming in from $80,000. Thanks for watching.